Please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. The XX Network is a sponsor of the show. I have a bias. Hey guys, welcome to the show. This is Naveen Gupta from Ripple. Listen to what he has to say.
So I think, definitely say if you look at UAE as a market, it's very attractive to us. Middle East as a market is doing very well. And the comparison that I can draw is I used to work in the Valley from year 2001 to 2005, and you had three ingredients going in the Valley at that time. You had absolutely brilliant talent, you had VC money that was available, and then you had enabling regulation. And at least in the blockchain space, I can see exactly the same thing happening in the UAE. Every week, I see projects, people coming and calling UAE their home. We have got both public and private money, and then we also have got great progressive regulation here. And I think
so. The same thing that happened in Silicon Valley is happening in the UAE, except for instead of the internet, it's the internet of value. Crypto companies are moving offshore. This includes companies like Coinbase that just had their exchange that offers derivatives outside of the United States. Now, what's interesting to me is this document popped up a couple of days ago. It's streamlined global treasury flows from Ripple. And in this document, it says Ripple could help alleviate these burdens from treasury managers looking to expand their businesses globally by joining Ripple's global payment network. Our customers are able to access hundreds of new partners and financial institutions around the world, including newly added payout markets like regions like Africa, Argentina, Belgium, and Israel, which represent almost 90% of the FX market. 90%. That seems pretty high, but that's what it says in Israel. So Israel is also Project Icebreaker, right? So Naveen's saying that they're seeing a lot of growth in the UAE region because there's regulations there, because they're allowed to thrive there, unlike the US. Listen to what he has to say here.
Yeah, just UAE itself, we'll be serving the whole region, not just the UAE, because this serves as our launch pad for Middle East and North Africa. So just a couple of things. So for example, as you know, Global Swell, which is our annual event. This is going to happen in the UAE this year. And what we're going to bring is going to bring a large number of customers to firsthand experience both the regulatory progress in the UAE and also the progress that we have made. So it's a great show for them to come into. And then second, we are also expanding in terms of our offices, in terms of the work that we are doing here. And we are very bullish on where this is going.
So Naveen is very bullish on the way things are going. They're going to bring in numerous customers to the UAE during Swell. So this year's Swell is going to be in the UAE, and they're going to onboard lots of different customers. Now, in the document, it says Ripple's payment solution also offers optimized liquidity for cross-border payments, including complex corridors like Brazil, Mexico, India, and Southeast Asia. By virtue of its strong global payments network and ability to use XRP as a neutral bridge for various fiat currency pairs. So, this is the document. You can see I'm quoting it directly from the document. And they're moving money outside of the U.S. jurisdiction legally through all these different countries, specifically Southeast Asia. Now, I was listening to this IMF presentation. This was taken on CGNT's channel, which it says that it's sponsored by the Chinese government, but this is coming from the IMF nonetheless. And listen to what the IMF is saying about these areas that Ripple is offering ODL.
It would also put pressure on the region's exchange rates, and depreciation would put additional pressure on domestic price inflation. Our analysis finds that exchange rate pass-through is stronger when inflation is already high, as it is today in many Asian economies. If you look at the right-hand side chart, the middle section, you can see that when inflation is high, the pass-through is also higher. So given where inflation is today in the region, we expect pass-through from depreciation to be higher, and that could have a bearing on inflation prospects going forward.
When the U.S. fights inflation, it causes havoc outside of the U.S. Everything's tied to the dollar, and when there's less dollars, everybody else's monetary policy has to acclimate to what's happening with the dollar. And right now, there's a lot of inflation that's going around the system, and Ripple's offering a solution to bypass the dollar corridors completely. You could just swap currency for currency in real time. Now, imagine if you're having business with some of these countries and your currencies are fluctuating 10, 15%. Imagine if you're able to settle instantly for whatever goods and services that you receive. Now, Galaxy Digital, this is Mike Novogratz, the bald-headed guy that was always like playing the bad guy. He's like the bad guy of the soap opera, and he's always saying bad stuff about XRP, and he's very vocal that he's anti-XRP. Yet his company, Galaxy Digital, is advising Pantera Capital, a leading blockchain asset management firm, on its stake in European digital asset exchange Bitstamp to Ripple Labs. So Galaxy Digital is setting up the deal between Bitstamp and Pantera. They're probably collecting some type of fee with it. So they're doing business with Ripple behind closed doors, yet Mike Novogratz is telling everybody that XRP is a security and all this crazy stuff, right? But he's making money off of them. That's one of his business clients. Now, it was also quoted that the courts move slowly. It's been, 3 years since the Ripple lawsuit, and we still don't have the judgment. That will probably be the first judgment, but I think it's going to be a slow process, probably until the election. Now, if XRP gets clarity while the rest of crypto has to wait until the next election, what's going to happen, right? Judge Torres made a decision today that we'll go over, but it looks like the Hinman emails are coming forth, and it looks like Ripple is getting closer and closer to settling. Now, this last quote says that, Mike, that goes for my follow-up. I know you're a red, white, and blue ex-military guy. How close do you think we are to ceding leadership in this asset class permanently? If we don't act, and if Ripple's case doesn't have some impact by year end, how far behind? Even mentioned you're looking at alternatives offshore as well. So all American crypto companies, right? Ripple, Coinbase, Galaxy Digital, they're all looking to move outside of the U.S. to continue operations. And like Naveen said, Silicon Valley was the internet boom. All of the big internet startups started in Silicon Valley. Some of them, billions, trillion-dollar valuations. I mean, think about all the tech startups that came out of that. And, America benefited from that. It's tax revenue that came in. That's capital that came in and was invested in the States. Now, people immigrated to work in Silicon Valley and give up part of their salary to the Uncle Sam just because it was a hub of the internet. And this is happening with the Internet of Value, but outside of the U.S. And this is the last piece of the internet, right? The value layer, the protocol. So like XRP is a protocol of value where you can host anything of value. The coins, there's a lot of nonsense out there, but those protocols are going to underpin this whole entire internet. Everything of value is going to move through these protocols, and it's going to be a seamless experience. We have a pretty choppy experience now because we're early. Now, the G7, and that includes the United States, the group of seven, are looking forward to the FSB's finalization of its high-level recommendations by July 2023. So it's getting close for the FSB to recommend their guidance for crypto assets. So even the U.S. is part of the G7, and their international working group is ironing out crypto regulations, and the U.S. is last to move, but the rest of the world is moving forward. Currency Network has partnered with the XX Network and is working with the legendary David Chaum's team to build the most advanced privacy-preserving CBDC platform called DCNet. And DCNet leverages eCash 2.0, and this is going to be a CBDC that acts just like cash. There's no negative interest rates. There's nothing like that. It's private. It's very similarly mimics cash. Now, I appreciate DeSantis and some of these other people stepping forth and saying we don't want a surveillance society. We don't want to see that. But the topic's a little bit more nuanced than that, right? Because if all cash goes in the hands of stablecoin providers, they're not going to bend the law. They're going to follow the law to a T. So the only people that can make something that's cash-like is the government. That's it. Stablecoin providers will never be able to offer a cash-like substitute. Only the government will be able to do that. So while I appreciate, the anti-CBDC rhetoric, it's much more nuanced. Now, this is Project Icebreaker. So I mentioned Israel earlier. Project Icebreaker set up cross-border payments. And I made a video about this with David Schwartz talking to all these guys and making an interesting point for XRP a little while back. Listen to what he has to say.
I think that's something we have to think about. We have to think about how do we sort of make product that people will pick up. And central banks aren't very good at this normally because we're not business people. If we were good at it, we wouldn't be working at a central bank. I'd have gone out there and worked for a commercial bank. But we have to sort of engage people to try and do it.
The central banks are not business people. What are they going to do? They're going to hire the private sector. That's why Ripple set aside a CBDC division. James Wallace heads it up, right? They're offering a whole CBDC solution for central banks, and they're trying to position XRP right in the middle of this whole entire internet of different CBDCs. So the private sector being more competent and capable than the public sector. Now, this comes across, here's the decision. So James Filan tweets out that Judge Torres denies the SEC's motion to seal the Hinman documents. Now, the Hinman documents are coming forth, and I was reading some other lawyers' tweets that said that we must be getting really close now. It also mentions that the defendant's motion to seal is denied as to references linking Ripple's revenues with XRP sales. Now, I welcome transparency. Ripple has been what I feel is very transparent. They've given quarterly reports on how they exactly spend the XRP, but all the dirty laundry is going to come out, and we'll know if there's any discrepancies in there, and we'll be able to know if there's anything that's different. So I actually don't mind seeing all of these documents and seeing this actually denied. But this is Hester Peirce. Now listen to what she has to say.
I had someone tell me yesterday that her firm just pulled out of the United States once we issued the Wells. Now, I don't want to talk about enforcement actions, but this is what she said. She said, you issued the Wells notice against Coinbase. That marked our decision to pull out of the United States. And I think you're seeing more and more people just making...
Yes, you are seeing more and more people move out of the United States. And like I said earlier, that's talent that's being taken offshore. And I know from, my experience of trying to work on projects, nobody wants to have this in the United States. Nobody wants to have a business in the U.S. Everybody's trying to incorporate somewhere outside of the U.S., and that's tax revenue. So the Treasury, the U.S. Treasury, is down $52 billion in one day, down to $87 billion. So they need to raise the debt ceiling, and there's politicians fighting back and forth and trying to negotiate a deal to raise the debt ceiling. Now, this is going to keep coming up. We're in a perpetual debt system. This will continue until it breaks, and this very well may be if this is delayed, it takes longer than it should. The markets are going to sell off just from that, right? Everybody's going to get scared, and you're seeing that. You're seeing that in credit default swaps. You're seeing that in short-term treasuries. The yields are spiking. That means people are getting nervous that the U.S. may not pay its bills. And what will that do to crypto if the U.S. fails to pay its bills, right? What would happen? And it's funny that I'm even saying that because the U.S. has never paid their bills. That's why we have the debt we have. It's credit from the Fed. So we're really just snowballing debt right now. Ledger is offering a service where you're going to be able to encrypt your private key, and that happens on your Ledger device. So you shard your private key, and it makes backup copies on different servers, and it links your ID to these backup copies. The idea being, if you lose your seed phrase, you could prove that you are who you are, and you can recover your seed phrase. And this is all done through your own ledger, so it's like you own the key to do this. Now, The issue with this I have is Ledger is not open source. We can't verify that there's a bug somewhere in here. The people can't verify it now. I mean, there's tons of money at stake. Ledger is a company that, makes a lot of money. I'm sure they don't want to make a mistake like that. On their Twitter space, they said that it's completely safe and, there's nothing to worry about, but they're trying to sell their product, right? I own a Ledger. I like the product. I don't think I've ever had an affiliate link with them, and if I ever made one, I never used it. I never promoted it or anything like that. So I like the product. I've never worked for them. I'm personally going to look for another hardware wallet. I think this opens the door for security problems. And even if it doesn't, even if I'm just being paranoid, why risk it? I don't need to risk it. So they're offering this service. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that if there is a malicious actor, they could send some type of upgrade to everybody's system that kind of exploits this design mechanism. So in the past, this design never existed. It just wasn't there. Now that it is there, the question is, can it just happen without you giving permission? Is there anything like that? Now, Ledger's been hacked in the past. Remember, all the customer data was leaked and put onto the dark web. So people's addresses and everything like that were put onto the dark web. Like I said, I personally used to like their products. I'm gonna look for another hardware wallet. I'm not comfortable with the risk, and I would say that the risk is extremely low, but I don't need to take the risk, so I'm not going to. A lot of people ask me my opinion on this, and this is my opinion. I'm not willing to take the risk. I'm not willing to take the risk that it's flawed in any way, and that might be an overreaction, but I don't care. Another hardware wallet, I think, a Trezor is like $40. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon or my Ghost site, dmjr.ghost.io. Thanks, guys.